Today I'm going to show you how to make these documents that I'm making for my game. They're inspired by the gateway process documents released by our great government. So let's just get started. So in Blender, first let's just delete everything. We want to set our scene resolution to 840 by 1188. This is the dimensions of a piece of paper. Set the camera to orthographic, then let's bring it up a little bit. Okay, now we just add our paper, and in edit mode, let's just scale it so it's the size of our camera here. Okay, so the first step is let's create a material for the paper. First, let's set the roughness to max and the IOR to 1. Then let's add a noise texture, a mapping node, and a texture coordinate. Now run the noise into a color ramp, and this is just to give the paper a little bit of a dimension. So let's turn this closer to white here, and then turn the scale pretty low. I think maybe 1 will be fine. Let's render it out. As you can see, our render is very dark. So what I'll do is go to the world settings and increase the brightness here. And also let's put the ramp into the emission of the paper and set this to like 5 or something. Yeah, it's very subtle. You probably can't see it on YouTube, but it just gives the paper a little more personality. Now the next part is we're going to add little black dots along the paper, as you can see, like right here, just kind of these random dots here. So we're going to use another noise texture, another color ramp. Let's add a color multiply, because this multiply is what we're going to use to combine these two nodes. So let's set this first one to black, put them really close to each other. I think probably 50 is a good scale. So you'll have to kind of mess with it in order to get something that you like. I think this is good enough. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create another paper and overlay it on top. This paper will be the black lines that we see, like this one right here. Yeah, this one right here. So with our new paper, let's do an inset. Give this the amount of thickness that you want. You'll kind of just have to eyeball it, and then delete all the other edges. So we just want this outside ring here. Then I don't want this right edge to be there, so I delete that too. Alright, and now let's give it a material. So we'll just put black. Obviously we set the base color to black, roughness full, IOR is 1. Now we don't want the whole thing to just be black always. So what we're going to do is we're going to use another noise texture, plug this into the alpha, use a ramp, so then I add a mapping and a texture coordinate to give us a little more control. Now let's put these two very close to each other. Let's make this scale on the noise to be like 0.3 or something. So the next step is we're going to kind of distort these so they move around a little bit. So the first step, let's do another noise texture. Put it into the same mapping, increase the scale a bit. Let's do a vector multiply. Now this multiply is how we're going to determine how much is being displaced here. So if we plug it in, immediately we see that nothing changes. And so you have to go down into your texture settings, change the displacement mode to displace and bump. This is how strong it's going to be able to displace here. 0.2, 0.2, and then I'll do like 0.05. We don't really want it to displace vertically that much, so. Now I'm going to add one detail. Let's have another sort of ring around the outside. I'm going to make this ring right on the outside of our camera, so you can't actually see it. I'm going to restore this line that we removed here on the right side. Now this ring is going to be a little different because I don't want it to have any of this alpha stuff going on. So let's just make a new material, copy our black material, paste it into here, and then just remove this stuff. With this displacement setup that we have here, it will always displace to the top right of the screen. Oh, actually I forgot to make this displacement. Okay. It'll always displace to the top right, and we don't want that because we want to have some more randomness. So pretty much this color output from the noise is going to give us a value between 0 and 1. So we want to change the range a little bit. Let's subtract 0.5 to it. Now that range is negative 0.5 to positive 0.5. And so this is what we want here. As you can see, it's kind of jittering in all of the directions here. So I increase this multiply a little more, and then we can change the location on this vector to give us something a little different here. So yeah, as you can see, we have kind of an edge right here. So it's a subtle detail, but I like the way that looks. The next step, we're going to add a couple very tiny thin lines. So let's duplicate this top black edge here. Scale it very, very small. And let's just duplicate a few of them across the paper. Render it out. Yeah, they're definitely too thick. So I'm going to select all of them, switch to individual origins, and then scale it by 0.3. Still might be a little too thick here. Let's do 0.7. So that is the paper itself done. Now we need to add like text and stuff. Let's just add a text element. Now we're going to make a new material for the text. This one is going to have like speckles of white in it. So let's just use a noise, mapping, you know the drill, coordinate, and a color ramp. So let's make this, we want most of the text to be black, and then let's increase the scale by quite a lot here. So once we get actually typing, we'll see it'll look a little better. For the font of this text, I'm going to use Courier New. So I've just copied in some text that I already wrote. Now we want to set the bevel depth just a little bit, just to add some thickness to the text. Now if you make this too big, your text will break, so be a little careful with this. These font settings, I like to make the characters a little closer to each other. Then go here for the text box and let's set the size so that the text actually kind of wraps around like this. And then let's make our lines a little denser like that. So I've just added the rest of my text in. At the top here I'm going to add a little bit of flavor text. This will be like the document number or something. Yeah. Make it a little smaller. Now I have to add in the actual logo for my legally distinct CIA. So let's just do image as a mesh plane. I drew this by hand and then I took a picture of it and then I ran it through a GIMP to adjust the colors on it. I put the texture color into the emission color and the emission strength. So I think this is not perfect, but it's good enough for now. Okay, I'll add another bit of flavor text. Redacted. And I don't know, today's date. Alright, so I've just added my mana drawing here. Okay, now as one final detail, I'm gonna select all the text we added, and then just like rotate it slightly so that it isn't completely straight. So it looks just kind of disorganized and kind of thrown together. Alright, and with that, that is our final touch, and now we are finished. So the cool thing about this is you can go into your materials, go to this mapping node, and just screw around with it. You now have like infinite variations of this paper. The world is your oyster now. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you can check out my game that I'm making. It's called Deity Under Ice, and appreciate a wishlist, and thanks for watching.